Good afternoon. I'm Sean Childs of Fantasy on SI or Fantasy Sports on SI. I'm going to make my first run at doing a Underdog Fantasy BestBall Mania 5 draft. I just want to, the first video that I do for this will take a little bit longer because I have not done one of these drafts this year. In the past 3 years, I've maxed out at 150 entries. I'm debating whether to do it this year. It's really a month-long commitment, and you're kind of a slave to the phone. And for me, the best way to do this is um, to do 150 teams is do 8-hour drafts slow, and I will put in like 10 to 15 a day over 10 to 15 day period. I think most of the drafts take from 17 to 21 days, so I want to make sure I time that before the final week of the season because I don't want to do these when the clock speeds up. So some will move faster, some will move slower. But if you do, I mean, I had 100 going last year at the same time, and I even did some of the DraftKings ones and had them two things going. But there's a point if you got 100 going, you might be doing 8 to 10 picks an hour. They're pretty good overnight of shutting the clock off so you don't get tripped up where you're getting timed out and stuff like that. But like I said, you're kind of looking at your phone the whole time. So I'm going to I'm going to kind of go through what we're looking at for the event and talk about a little bit. And this is kind of small. And let me see if I can get this to be a little bigger for you. So I guess that didn't work as far as what I was looking for. So let me just get this back to, yeah, so I don't know why. So anyway, I was trying to do my screen, but it seemed like it did the screen in front of me rather than the one that's showing. So anyways, there's a bunch of entries for this event. It's a $25 entry fee. Looks like there's 672,000 and change of entries. You get put in 12 person leagues. If you win your league or come in second, you move on. And then in round one of the playoffs, which is, I believe, so this must be week 13 or 14. Yeah, so it must be week 13 or something like that. Maybe week 14. So 14, 15, 16, because they don't use like 18. So you get a group of 12. If you win that week, you move on to the following week. If you survive that week, you move to the next week. And if you survive the third week, you play in the final group of 539 players. So it looks like they changed the format a little bit. I think last year it was a 3-week run, but that final group of people that made it to the last round was a little bit larger. So technically, I think this is, yeah, so it's over for 13, 14, 15, 16, no, so it starts at week 14. So anyway, it's a 18-man roster. You can draft anybody you want. Typically in last year, because this is a half-point PPR, 4 points for passing touchdowns, I tend to favor the running backs to try to make sure I have some running back strength early. I just don't want to kind of be at the back end of the player pool, but there's always the last couple of years, there's been a running back that's kind of emerged. It's been really helpful. Like Chubb Hubbard last year was probably, the rookie for Carolina was supposed to start. He got drafted late. He came on, Kyren Williams the year before was drafted really late. And so the players end up being kind of impactful. So you kind of want to leave it open, where you can find somebody. But I would draft 5 running backs because I was a little bit stronger, and then go 7 wide receivers, 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, more so because of the bye weeks for the quarterbacks. And I don't want to take the chance of somebody getting hurt at quarterbacks, but a lot of the teams I saw, they would go 2 quarterbacks, some of them go 2 tight ends. And that's ultimately the 2 tight ends are a decision of, if you got like Kelsey when he's in his prime, you might just need somebody else in a bye week. But to slide through this championship round, you probably want to look at the last week 17, what's the best matchups, and kind of backtrack it. The first goal is to make it to the championship round, but obviously if you can have the right stacks, you can kind of get through it. But you don't know at this time. It's really, really difficult to time what's going to happen down the road. We can't make a decision on who's going to win a football game, never mind what's going to happen within it in 17 weeks, 16, 17 weeks later. So you just want to do the best you can is try to put players together and maybe have one good stack, which means a quarterback and his receiver, or a quarterback, even a running back with a quarterback is fine. And then maybe if you have a second core of them, one team plays well one week, they score a lot of points, and then the next week, and you kind of catch this nice rhythm at the end of the year. But typically in fantasy football, if you got a core of hot players, it kind of tends to carry you. But if you start off hot at the beginning of the year, it doesn't necessarily translate to being the best teams at the end of the year. So I always think in the high stakes market when I'm playing football, if you score 200 points, I would rather not get it in the first 14 weeks of the season. I would rather save that from 15 to 17 because that's where the big money's won. But if you got a good roster, you got a good roster, and you're not going to. You could score 200 points, I guess, occasionally at this one, but there's a shorter roster because you don't have kickers. So I'm just going to scroll down to the prizes and kind of show what you're looking at. Let's see here: prize fund, scoring, prize pool. So first prize, the draw on this is it's $25, and if you max it out, it's $37.50. So if you're doing, the NFBC or some other high stakes market, it's basically 2 entry fees you're putting in of one of those events. And if you put 150 teams, you're going to win something back. If you can survive relatively healthy and the key players that you like do well, you should maintain about half your bankroll, maybe even more. And if you can pop one into, the second to last weekend or even the final weekend, you're going to do extremely well. But there's a lot of entries. But if you break it down, if you do 150 teams and driving into 6,000, and maybe it's a 1 in 4,000 chance. It's really not as bad as you think when you're doing it, and you're seeing people will buy more teams, have an advantage, but they are also risking more money, and having more money isn't guaranteed success. You just sometimes you have to be in the right draft, has to break right, and you have to stay healthy. But anyways, $2 million for first overall, 1 million for second, a little over 500,000 for third, 400,000, 300,000, and on down. So when you get down to if you make the playoffs down here, if you come in the first, so looks like it's about 1 in 5, maybe make it roughly. If you're 1 in 5, you're going to get your money back. So, if you're basically making the playoffs, you're going to be a 1 in 6 of making it. So I guess maybe some of those teams in that first weekend get knocked out and don't win their money. But at the same time, the first weekend, some of those teams that get knocked out might win like $70, or maybe those are the losers of that. So yeah, maybe everybody cashes if you make the playoffs. Sorry about that. Probably reading this wrong, but anyways, and it tapers up as you go on. So if you survive the first week, you get some money back. You get the next week, and it goes on. So that's the what we're looking at. But there's it is what it looks like. They had a little secondary first round prize breakdown, like via the I don't know what this is, 100,000 for first, second for things. So this is a little bit different. Round one praise. I haven't read that, so I probably should look into it. But anyway, so that's what you're up against. I haven't. I deposited $1,250 because I'm in Massachusetts, and they get some weird rule. They can't put more than $1,250 in a month. I used to be able to put, So if I want to do 150 teams, I'm gonna have to put in the next couple of days, $1,250, and then hopefully 3 days later I can do the same thing for August. But I might not do it. So anyways, before I go on to entering a draft, I wanted to kind of go back. I have done, I did all the projections in rankings and stuff like that. And a lot of this information is fluid and stuff like that. So I put this in a format so you can basically see. So this is what I'm looking at. This is like the depth charts of rosters, which you can see on Fantasy on SI. And this is just a quick glance, and I'll switch to the spreadsheet in 1 second. And when I do the projections, I am showing you how I came the projections. And this is a picture of Arizona, and a lot of this stuff is fluid and things have changed. But this is the starting point of the rosters, and then you can see what it looks like. And your goal as a player or a fantasy player is not to always believe my information, but take a stance and take a position what you think of that's going to happen. But anyways, like on this particular thing, I'll just do a quick rundown. Like Kyler Murray's projected for 23 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 481 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, passes close to 4,000 yards. He's going to play 95% of the snaps, so maybe he plays like one game, comes out early. Maybe there's a cushion. So some of those I kind of, if you think the guy's going to be healthy, there'll be a little fluctuation. If it's a 50-50 split, I can kind of price that in. And then I tend to do do 4 running backs with a quarterback, break that down, do 5 receivers, 2 tight ends, and those are the early projections. And then it comes out after I did the projections, it translates to this is the quarterback projections based on that. So if I need to make a quick adjustment for a wide receiver changing or whatever, or when I do it for weekly for the week 1 or week 7 during the season, I make the adjustments a couple times a week, and you have this information. And a lot of times this is just a visual of what you think's going to happen. So even if I have somebody projected for 13th or 14th, for that player to go up 3 or 4 points, a 3 or 4 5 ranking point, ranking slots in the projections, it's not much. You know what I mean? So, and you have to price in where they go in draft. So it's just, like I said, it's a reference point. You look at the information. Do you believe it? And what I'm doing, I'm trying to fit the projection somewhat in a box that fits what happened in the past. But the same thing, you want to give some players that you think have some upside, but you don't want to be going crazy, because you can just look at like Baker Mayfield. He had a ton of touchdowns last year. He's got 5 weapons, 2 running backs to catch the ball, a tight end catch the ball. He's got 3 good wide receivers. They got a 4th wide receiver they added this year. So there's a lot going on there. But will Baker Mayfield throw the ball more than 544 times? They ran the ball pretty good. So that package, when I'm doing his projection, looks a little bit low, and he could be a value. And the same thing, like, for Dallas, they have no running backs, realistically on the roster that you can say that are going to catch the ball a ton, going to be really productive. And maybe somebody emerges and that changes their profile, but Dallas should have to throw the ball a lot, 600 attempts for Dak, and maybe a little bit more with the backup quarterback. And Joe Burrow is going to throw it. So a lot of this information is just, what it looks like on the first take and stuff like that. And then this is an NFBC ADPs, which is another reference point. And then I put the Underdog Best Ball, which is going to be in this spreadsheet that I'm going to click to in 1 second. And then I had some offensive stats breakdown from last year, which just kind of shows what each team was, how they ran their offense, what was good or bad, and also what the defense gave up. And so these are things that I look at when I'm doing projections, and I also look at it when I'm doing daily games, and I'm doing them when I'm setting my lineup. So rather than hang up there, I'm just going to bring into the cheat sheet, which is anybody can get to it in Fantasy. The Fantasy on SI will have that up. They don't have it linked. So I marked some of these. This like early depth chart has changed a little bit, and I had some of the guys that I started to put them, highlight them if they were a little nicked up or if there was news. But there's like I said, there's been a couple things that already happened. Like the third, Traylon Burks got hurt, got released by Tennessee, so that's going to change a little bit. And there's a couple, like there's other information that's fluid and stuff like that, and I have to obviously update the projections. But I'm kind of I'll do it the next couple days, and then I'll update this profile, and then the next tab will go to all the projections for every team, and it goes all the way down and stuff like that. And if you go under this tab right here, it just lists the the NFPC or a 4-point passing touchdown league, their projections for running back, quarterback, and tight ends, and then I have the underdog ADPs. So when I'm going to go and do this first draft, this is going to be for underdogs. It's going to be my first run at doing it, but at the same time, I have a pretty good feel for who I like and don't like. It doesn't mean my opinion is going to be ideal, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to have the best timing of reading their player pool. Even if I look at these ADPs that were from last week from Underdog, and I didn't sort them by quarterback, running back, and wide receiver and tight end, which would give me a better view of it, but I'm going to be able to look at it pretty quick and have a feel when I'm doing it. So as this goes, you have a feel for what's going on, and then you have a feel for who's moving up and who's moving back, and you're trying to you give a little bit, take a little bit, and it's your direction. But the first couple drafts is just getting feel for flow, and I don't know what draft slot I get when I enter this, and I haven't entered once. As soon as I do it, I will get it. And this draft is going to be it's going to be a pick every 30 seconds, so it moves pretty quick. I would imagine it's 35-40 minutes. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, it's about 18 rounds, and it just here we go. You just do it. So but for me because this is the first one, I'm not going to really look at the ADPs. I'm going to just look at the depth charts. I think I know the player pool well enough that I can look at their ADPs and know who I like, and I'm going to make some judgments, and not necessarily off my rankings of what I'm trying to execute. So I can say for sure, if I get relatively early that I think I'm going to try to get a Dallas stack, I'm not 100% sure what would go with that at this time because I don't know it, but I'll try to get maybe a Dallas stack and maybe Lamb with Dak, if it's favorable, and I'll know as soon as as soon as I enter this league, I'll be able to see where the ADPs and these guys go, and I'll have a couple of minutes of to quickly look at stuff and see what it is and make some judgments. So we're going to go for the ride on this, and I will talk as I go. I don't need like I said, I don't need a lot of looking at it, but the clock is going to move kind of quick. And this event is 48.7% filled. It's going to fill for sure. It seems like it's ahead of pace last year. I mean, they get 50, 60,000 entries a week in this. So I think it was going to fill relatively early, so I wouldn't wait too long on this. But, even if you're going to put in I think they actually, if you're a new person and you haven't used this, actually they switched the clock to 20 seconds. This is going to go even faster. That's really, really quick. If you don't know, you're kind of not used to it. And then you got to make sure you kind of know where you're going. And at first you got to know how to, where you're going to pick them. I think this one's a slide where you can go back and forth, or you can hit the Q thing and it'll run up. But we'll talk about that when I get in it. So, but you just have, if you want to go 8 hours, you just click this over to 8 hours over here, 20 seconds here. And this would be like I said, my first draft that I would do. And we'll go from there. And so I'll try to do a few of these, see how it goes. I'll know in the next 2 days if I'm going to make a run at 150 teams, but I'll try to do some of these, and I'll do some other events and talk about what's going on, what I'm seeing, and just general opinions of the change in player pool. And hopefully, can stay healthy. Baseball, I got a lot of the pitching right, but some of the batters just haven't lived up to expectations. And I don't have the 4 or 5 impact bats, so it means I have to get more volume of players right than and then not depend on the waiver wire, but we'll see. So we're going to enter this draft and confirm it. So this is going to say right away that I'm in the draft, so I can see the ADPs. Filled. This might go pretty quick. And I don't, it doesn't say right away where it goes. I think it'll come up and it'll give me a couple minutes where it'll say it'll start in 30 seconds or something like that, I believe. There you go. So I am pick 7. So I would imagine just by looking at this, I'm going to click over to the running backs, and McCaffrey is a guy is around 7. I am going to fade McCaffrey this year. I think he had the calf injury. I'm going to have to let him beat me. I don't know if I can trust him to be there at the end of the year, especially in the best ball format. But if you do a bunch of teams, it's smart to have your share. And I would like to have, like I said, start with Lamb, but I'm out of that race. So obviously Justin Jefferson goes really high. So I'm kind of in a tough decision. I'm not in the camp of Malik Neighbors. I think that he's a really talented player. I can't trust a quarterback play. It gets a little nicked up last season, cut a ton of balls. And I'm not in the Nico Collins camp because he has had some injuries. So it is, I will be drafting on the fly and making some decisions. In the high stakes market in one of the events, the tight ends have gone really high, but looks like these are priced fair. As far as the quarterback rankings, and so this thing's going right now. So the quarterback rankings, Baker Mayfield's about 7th. Dak Prescott's around 10th, 108. So that's about 8th round, is not in 10th round, in the 9th, 10th round. So here we go. And I'm not going to read them off too much, but this draft's going to move kind of relatively quick, and you're at the mercy of what's going on. So and you just jockey back and forth by the highlighted thing up top on this. So Chase went first, pretty standard, great player, coming off a great season. And a lot of times that he had a great season then, and Cincinnati Bengals were important players last year in the playoffs, and that sometimes doesn't line up. And mentally, I don't have the whole structure, the playoff structure of how they match up the weeks 15 and 17 to 17, and I'll probably do a little better at this. I just decided to do this relatively quick. So some of my background stuff, I'll be able to look at it, and especially when I'm doing 8-hour drafts in this, that information will be more in the forefront. So I would imagine that most likely Christian McCaffrey is going to make it to me unless somebody takes him, and so that'll change things. I would be ecstatic if Jefferson made it, but I would imagine that he goes. But this is half-point PPR. The running backs are kind of important. The thing with Barkley, he comes off such a great season last year, but the catches and is that repeatable? So I'm on the clock right now. I'm not taking McCaffrey no way, whatever I'm going to do. I got 11 seconds. So I'm going to just take Puka. I know he's going to catch a lot of passes. He has a little bit injury risk, but I'm going to accept that, even though, like I said, that McCaffrey was. So Puka is the guy that I chose over Neighbors. They get him the ball so close to the line of scrimmage. I'm not confident that he's going to score touchdowns. He did miss some time last year, but I'm going to have some shares of him. Maybe if you did 144 teams, you would think you would have 12 teams with everybody in the first round, hopefully rough. But some of them you're going to probably fade a little bit and maybe get 4 or 5. So the way this broke, I am kind of at the mercy of what they leave me going forward. And and my friend of mine back home is really, really a big fan of A-Chain as the second round. I have a strange feeling that Miami's, offense and everything could go in the wrong direction. But it is, like I said, it is important to have a foundation running back. And if I would have taken a running back in the first round, even if I moved up like Genty from Oakland or the Raiders, Las Vegas or whatever, then I would be able to put myself in a different position to get a wide receiver, and it just changes the dynamic. So right now, I wrote about the A.J. Brown McConkey debate, really similar players, catch a lot of passes. But, last year Philadelphia just really didn't throw enough passes. So I like Jonathan Taylor. I'm really kind of not sure what's going to happen at the quarterback. Irvington was really, really good last year, catches enough balls. I'm not sure of the goal line stuff. But I'm going to take the volume receiver. I'm going to go in a little different direction. I think he has a chance to be a 100-catch guy. So I'm already, kind of, flying off the seat of my pants of what I want to do here because I'm not. It's the first draft. I'm seeing how these go. You're kind of looking for some value, but it all is all about team structure right now. So, so coming back in the third round, so I can where I've already taken, 2 receivers. I don't want to get beat too much at running back position. So there is a little bit of, who is a guy that can score a lot of touchdowns but get some catches. And the catches are the touchdowns are more important than catches, but when you do have the catches, you do get some additional yards. So, Jacobs was a really high volume guy. So my next pick on this would be, let's see, I am at 31. So Hampton is going to be at a range. Kyron Williams is going to be at range. Breece Hall is in the range. And I really got beat last year by Breece Hall a lot. I don't think some of these receivers like Harrison and Wilson might make it to me, but there's not really there. I would be really consider McBride if this wasn't a tight end league. If I miss on him, a lot of people are high on Kittle, but the same thing. When you're taking Kittle, you're in week 14. That's one of the playoff weeks, so you could be down a tight end, and that is going to be an important factor for some of these decisions. It's not as bad as last year as far as the teams that are on it by week 14, but you have to pay attention because they added that extra week in the playoffs, and that is going to be a factor. So Breece Hall, pass catcher, can the Jets be better? The quarterback's a little banged up. The quarterback's going to steal some rushing touchdowns. I don't expect him to throw a lot of passes, so that kind of eliminates some of his chances to catch the ball. And in addition, the Jets did rotate a bunch of extra wide receivers in there. So, based on this, I really need a wide receiver. He's holding out in the Jigmer. That just not were there. Switch back to tight end. Nothing I like. I'm not going to go quarterback. I got 5 seconds, so I got to go. Sorry, I'm going to get timed out here, and I'm just going to hit the Najigba. And I just went, because it was moving so quick, and I was talking. Was going to get timed out. I hit the star button, which put it on auto and brought it out. And that's just me, not being prepared. But I went for another guy that can catch the ball a lot. Out of Seattle, little change in offensive personnel with Sam Darnold there, and they have Cooper Kupp, but he's not a guy that I think that is going to score impactful touchdowns. A lot of times when you're looking for that foundation of a receiver, can that guy catch 100 passes and get 1,200 to 1,500 yards and score double-digit touchdowns? Because those guys can have big games. But Najigba did improve a lot last year, has a different quarterback, different offensive system, and it'll change a little bit. So right now I'm out of the gate. I got all receivers. I'm going to have to get a running back. Based on where I was looking at that, even though in my head I was talking about like Hall and Williams, I just thought James Cook, Buffalo was a higher scoring team. He got a lot of touchdowns last year, can catch the ball. I don't think he's going to score as much as last year, but I would rather have a running back on a team that would score a lot than somebody that's on a lesser scoring team. So I will take Cook if he makes it. So I'll just star him just in case. And he'll be the first person. And you can start these guys as you're going on. Kenneth Walker, kind of in a split. Chuba Hubbard doesn't really make big plays catching the ball. He played really well last year. I think the dynamics of that offense changes. Kamara, I really think that the Saints are going to be one of the worst teams in the league offensively. So Cook made it to me, and I'll just talk and let that run off for 17 seconds just so I can see. And at wide receiver, I already have, who I want. So, McMillan's kind of bet on the come, but he's a bye week 14, so I'm never going to take him that early. If he slid another round or so, that might be a little bit different. DJ Moore, it should be a little better with the quarterback, Caleb Williams, being back for second year. I would take him probably hands down over McMillan, even though the other receiver, Dunze, was going to be in the mix. So, but like I said, you're at the mercy of what's happening in his player pool. So just get a better feel for what's going on at the quarterback position. Not bad value at quarterback, even coming back into the next few rounds, because even Joe Burrow going, and that's why. Another thing I want to talk about is that, like, in this best ball contest, right, the teams that have Jamar Chase, and Burrow's going to, he's going to go on that 5-6 turn roughly. I mean, people are going to be able to put Burrow with Chase a lot, and maybe even get Higgins in there. So if a stack is extremely easy and they are really good players, I think sometimes you want to fade that because they're going to be popular, and in order to get it, you got to beat a lot of teams. And sometimes that's you have to play with the hand that's dealt to you, and see what happens. So based on what I'm going to be at 55. I guess if Hurts made it to me, I could take him, get a quarterback that thing. So I'll put him in the queue just to see if he gets knocked out there. Kenneth Walker, I'm not really a fan. Walker's okay. Kamara, I really don't like I said, because of the offense. He could fade. I think he's a really good player. Just going the wrong direction. I just thought they made such a bad decision on the rookie quarterback, 25 years old, not much of a resume, and that's how you're going to build your franchise on it. It's just not a lot there. And James Conner is a really good player, but I really think that at some point he's going to break down. Harvey's kind of an unknown, so it really gets getting kind of squirrely there. So as it comes out, Swift might get a lot of touches. The same thing with Pollard, might get a lot of touches. So I'm going to be relatively weak at the running back position, and the guy just took Hurts away from me. So here we are. We're going to go back to the wide receiver position, and based on volume, what I can see it kind of quick is that Flowers is the guy that's going to get the most chances. Most likely, he's not going to be a 100 catch guy. Sutton is the guy that was pretty good last year in Denver. Travis Hunter's kind of an unknown, but he's a pretty talented player. So I just went with a volume guy because I'm talking and stuff like that. So right now you can go over here, and I got one running back, 4 wide receivers, and 2 guys on bye week 8 and 2 on bye week 7, but one's a running back and wide receiver. So it's going to kick back to me relatively quick. So now we're going to go tight end position. I'm in the Laporta camp at tight end, or here, even Kelsey. Like, I'm in a position where that Kelsey, he doesn't have to be great when he's at 98, and any of those 3 tight ends I'm okay with as a lead tight end. And if you get relatively weak, sometimes it's okay to have 3 of them. But is Mahomes on the board? If Mahomes makes it in the 60s, I mean, I really need a running back. So if he's going to make it, based on this is 66, like Mahomes might make it back to the next round, and then Kelsey 98. So there's probably a lot of people are going to still have Mahomes and Kelsey together, but you're at the mercy. But Laporta is the guy I like, but I think that I'm going to have to take a running back, even have to force somebody. So I would actually prefer to force Swift in this situation, just because of things. So I'm going to key him up there. I'll just let him go because I'm talking. So I'll put him in front there. If he goes, I'm going to be Mixon's a little banged up. Henderson's kind of a split guy, would be more favoring to the pass catching. Not sure about the touchdowns. And Swift gets a little bummed because the offensive coordinator and the head coach are coming from Detroit, and their running backs did pretty well. But Swift did earlier in his career have a history of getting hurt, so that's a little bit different there. So now, if Laporta makes it back, I'm very interested. Same thing if Mahomes is still kicking around, I'm okay with Baker Mayfield. I don't want to lean on, I guess, Kyler Murray as the front player. He just seems like he eliminates half the field a lot about it. I mean, I know Harrison's pretty talented, and Andy will run. Andy has a tight end, but his tight end doesn't tend to score a lot of touchdowns. Bo Nix really came on in the second half. I think Purdy has definitely a more difficult time. The wide receivers look messy. Fields has an injury. So out of these quarterbacks, I'm interested in Dak. I can't ignore Mahomes. and Mayfield is in play. So in this range, I want one of those. We'll see what happens if we get two. Right now we got two running backs and four wide receivers. Tight end possible, but we already lost. Laporta just went, so I'm at 79. So Hawkinson would be there, and I'm fine with Hawkinson. I might not throw as much as there. So I guess if Mahomes make it, I'm going to take a shot with that, and I'll just swing back with Kelsey if it breaks right. But at the same time, when you can see each team, you can see like the next team coming up has no quarterback. So does he take Mayfield? Does he take Mahomes? And so he took Pacheco as a running back. Pacheco. So Mahomes is just a pretty good quarterback. I don't like the situation with his Rice and stuff like that, but we'll just take him. And then we're going to switch back. We'll key up the tight end Kelsey, and I'm going to move him up on this here. I'll leave the other quarterbacks in there just in case, but I'll most likely throw running backs and stuff like that. So now we're going to switch back to wide receivers. There's nobody really. Godwin's coming off an ankle injury. A little messier for playing time, with the rookie coming in from Ohio State, and even McMillian was a pretty good player. So, who did Reed just got taken from there. So when once I have four wide receivers, like Cooper Kupp is a pretty good value if he could bounce back. And the same thing, I think Diggs is a pretty good value for the Patriots. And I don't know where he is in this, and he could have been drafted for all I know. But so how far am I off? I'm a few more picks. So as far as running back, I'm interested in Pollard too, but 82, like he might not make it back to me. I'm at pick 90. So it looks like Pollard should go off the board. And Pollard's, didn't score a lot of touchdowns in a split, had a ton of touches last year. But if I missed on him, Aaron Jones, he's getting older, but I think you kind of have to just take the best available. I did like the Junkin guy from Cleveland a lot, but he had the off the field issue, so that changes little things. But now I'm at the mercy of, Pollard just went and what slides. So Brian Robinson, kind of an early down back, kind of split there. Mason's, backing up Jones. It's a coin flip. Travis Etienne, it just hasn't emerged. Jaylen Warren is more of a pass catcher and splitting time with a new rookie quarterback, running back Johnson coming there. So that's a little more difficult. So I think that I'll just end up taking the Kelsey if this guy doesn't take him, and I'm gonna have to take my chances here. And like I said, you just when you're doing this, you're just trying to, like I said, find a rhythm of it. It's definitely easier to kind of get a feel for this when you're doing the slow drafts, because it gives you that, especially early on, you get like a minute or two that you can kind of look at the players and kind of see how they develop. So we'll switch back to the wide receiver position. So we got a quarterback, we got a tight end, and we're going to most likely, make sure we got one really good secondary, one good quarterback and another good second one behind it. We'll have to, search out the player pool. Like I said, I'm all right with Kupp. I doubt he makes it because I'm going to be picking in the hundreds. So the running back position. Now, here's a situation where I do like, and he's been getting a little pressed, the Scatterbo guy from the Giants. So I had him projected over Tracy based on how they're going right now. Tracy's going earlier. One of those players could make it Maxby. So sometimes you have to gamble on one of these situations. And even even though they have the ADPs at a certain range, like the Cleveland running back might slide a little bit further. And when you're doing more of those, you get a feel for where they go, because these are always like floating ADPs. And so you just have to, kind of, read what's going on and go from there. Let me see, just to see. So Diggs must have went already. So I don't know where he goes. Don't know where his ADPs. Do I want? So now if I end up taking, like, say, Kupp, and I have two Seattle wide receivers, do I have to, try to get Darnold as my, third quarterback, and does he go far enough? So Darnold would be in, 176. And like I said, don't have a good flow for what's going on as far as that. But so based on playing time, Travis Etienne, new coaching staff, might get a better opportunity, but still the other player is going to be in the mix. Tracy, I like the other quarterback. He's got some noise. Dobbins has played pretty good last year, but the Harvey guy's in front of him, going to be kind of a split. So I'm going to take the chance that the Scatterbo guy is the one I'm going to take based on what I'm seeing here. And then also, Dak went, and also at Cooper Kupp went. So guys that were kind of interested to me went off the board anyway. So I'll take him, let him go. I'll let it run off by its. Actually, I'll just do it and just thing. And I think you can slide this sideways, so I'll just move it along. So now we're going to go back to the tight end position. There's this, and the good thing, like if you take the like Andrews or something like that, tight end, last year Baltimore's tight end scored like 18 touchdowns. So it would make sense sometimes to maybe put Andrews with Likely, and that you're going to get a decent touchdown even if it's second and third situation. I don't think I'm just going to make it back to me. I don't know exactly where I'll go. I thought Dalton Kincaid was pretty fair where he's going in the high stakes market. After that, when you're looking behind, this tight end pool, there's not really anybody that stands out, but I probably should get in and get somebody as a second one. We'll see wide receiver. I really liked what Bateman did last year. He came on. Burden's kind of a rookie wide receiver, and he's a wide receiver 3 on the Bears, but they got 2 decent tight ends. So it's kind of messy there. Mims is kind of a big play receiver. Hollywood Brown did nothing last year. I do like Kai Williams as potentially a big play receiver. But there's nobody in the wide receiver position that kind of stands out. I do have 4, but I'd like to, to get somebody else that can kind of score a little bit better. But I'm going to shift back to running back position because I think it drops off. So if he makes it back, I'm just going to gamble. I mean, who knows what happens with his off the field. But if if news breaks and it changes, in a month, he's a guy that's going to get drafted a lot earlier. So you're at the mercy of these guys floating back and forth. And if you do a lot of drafts and over time, you can kind of take advantage of situations, or you get saved sometimes because of this. So, same thing, the quarterbacks are probably going to be dropping off. So when I'm looking at this, like Caleb Williams is pretty attractive wide receivers. Jared Goff's a really good option because in this kind of format, Detroit's going to score a lot of touchdowns, and he's going to be a viable guy to have some big games. It's really, if you got either side of Detroit and he's be helpful, I have no hookups for him, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to do that. McCarthy with Jefferson makes a lot of sense. If you have it, be okay with that. So the running back for Cleveland made it back to me. So I'm just going to take him. So now I'm in the debate where, now I'm up to, I got 4 running backs. I got one guy with upside, one guy I think had the job. So now, do I want to back up Swift or Cook with another guy? I would think the Cook with Ray his name, Ray Davis, would make sense. I don't know if I can fit this guy in, but I will keep it. And I'm also really, really high on Trey Benson as the kind of the guy that has upside. So I think that based on what I'm seeing, I'll kind of target him 141, try to get front of that. So I'm going to have probably 2 more picks I'd have to get in there. So I'm most likely going to have to get a tight end in here or see if there's another wide receiver. So Warren, talented rookie tight end, go drafted in the first round. But if Richardson starts a quarterback, how much are they going to throw? They have 3 pretty good wide receivers, a good running back. Kincaid coming off a really, really disappointing season. The Njoku was pretty good last year. Who knows who's going to play quarterback at Cleveland? Dallas Goedert has been a pretty good player for Philadelphia. Doesn't throw a lot this year. I think they didn't throw a lot last year, and he tends to miss 3 or 4 games. I do think Jake Ferguson's a pretty good soft spot. Last year he didn't score, and they gave him I think they signed him 4 years, $52 million. I would really like to pair him with Dak if I had him. I think that he's kind of the break point for me. He's 142 as well. So right now when I'm looking at this, I could get like maybe Benson or Ferguson is maybe the next 2, but I don't know the draft flow as far as tight ends. And Njoku's fine. I have no problem. Like he's kind of a split. I guess they're talking about Pitts a little bit more positively with a new quarterback and stuff like there. Gesicki's not a bad third tight end because he did pretty good going to Cincinnati, can score some touchdowns. And I'll just switch back to wide receiver. This is moving kind of quick for me, for be honest talking. So I'm on the clock. I'm just going to take Benson, because it's early. I'm going to go the upside back. So I'm done with the running backs. I'm not taking any more running backs. I'll come back and take the tight end, and I'll try to fill the back end of my wide receivers. What are we at? We're around the end. We got 5, running back 6, 10, we're 11. So we got 7 more picks. So we're going to try to get 3 more wide receivers. I'm at the mercy of what I can find in this player pool, and maybe 4. Let's see what I can do at quarterback. I mean, I like Justin Herbert. He could throw the ball a lot more this year. Love's a pretty good player. I'm not as high as everybody else on that first round wide receiver they drafted. I'm just not a fan of drafting speed receivers. Like kind of like I can say one-dimensional speed receiver, but a guy like that, like he could be a Chris, like the other Christian Watson type player, but he might need a couple of years to develop. Maybe they did make big plays last year. They gained like I think 8.2 yards per pass attempt. Stroud's a pretty good quarterback that didn't really kind of hit last year. I don't really like Tua's. He's got Hill and his receiving options are all right. So, but based on having the Seattle receivers, I probably should have him on my roster at some point. So right now, hopefully, we'll see what happens. This guy, if he might take. No, he took Pitts over Ferguson. So we'll see if he can slide by the next two. He took another running back. I'd be extremely happy to get Ferguson where I did. Yeah, so I got Ferguson. So I got Kelsey and Ferguson. Let me look at my bye weeks. We got 10. So my quarterback's 10. So I don't really want to overlap. So I have two tight ends on bye week 10. That's okay. I just want to make sure I get my next quarterback can't be on bye week 10. And I don't want to, if I get whatever, I'm going to have to add a third tight end no matter what. I mean, I guess I could take it at 0 and we'll see what happens. But as far as wide receivers, I think Tillman was a little banged up, but he was the guy that really came on last year, had 3 pretty good games. Romeo Dobbs is kind of in a, kind of a mix with 3 receivers there. So this Beck, it's a talented receiver for the Raiders. Going to take a little time. Douglas is a possession guy. Bryant, really a 4th receiver. Thielen's a possession guy with 2 other guys in front of him, but he can be helpful at times. Michael Wilson can have a game or 2. So this really, when you're at the thing. So at this point, I mean, Keenan Allen's a pretty good player that if he could sign, I don't mind where I have Mahomes. I do like Royals as a potential extra player. I think Lockett gets dismissed. So this is kind of a situation where last year, like Mooney, a guy that's a veteran player or that underachieved, was kind of a discount maybe in the 15th round. And we might be, I'm not sure where this is, but Lockett's done it before, be the second receiver with a rookie quarterback. So that might be viable for me. I think at this point, I don't think, like I could take Tillman and be comfortable with that. But like I said, the quarterback position is kind of up in the air. So I'm not going to take Penix, Tua, Stafford. So I'm really kind of, what am I going to do here at quarterback? So, do you gamble on the, so the ADP for Darnold's 170 something, and I am at there. So I'm not going to go there. So, well, that one, I'm going to run out of time here, but well, I might as well just not blow it and take Darnold. I'll let Darnold go off. I'll just get him out of the way. And like I said, if I wasn't talking and stuff like that, have a little bit of rhythm, it doesn't matter if I'm ahead of the curve or something like that, time. So another receiver like Gesicki has by week 10. That's not good. Ertz had a great year last year. I'm not sure he kind of sticks this year. Juno Smith was really good. His ADP is slide a lot. That's kind of a split. Orton can chip in a little bit. So I think there's viable. I'm not, Darren Waller, I'm not really in that camp. So still 4 wide receivers, didn't fall in that range. Tight end, we're going to skip that for now. Alec Pierce had some big games. Michael Wilson. Yeah, it's just Slayton, Keenan Allen, Royals. Yeah, sure. So Lockett is a guy it's viable. I mean, I'm not looking for a hero. I just need a guy that can have some games, different situation there. I'm just going to scan through the names and see if I see anybody that's potential value that kind of fits what I'm looking for. And if you can find that one guy or 2 guys that really at the back end of the player pool of this that might do something. So right now it doesn't look that great, but I have 2 quarterbacks, 10 and 8, and 2 tight ends. So I probably should slide in, just grab that wide receiver, see what the third tight end. I'm never taking the New Orleans guy. This is a split. So they've kind of really run off the quarterback position. I could take Russell Wilson, chip in. I actually, wouldn't be a bad situation if I even like Hyatt from wide receiver kind of really hasn't hit. He could potentially be a third quarterback and see what happens. And but there's not really like that. Like the rest of them aren't really like you feel like you're gonna get a starter. So do I really want to go that way? I'm gonna do it because Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Two is there. I wasn't scrolling all the way up, so I don't know. I was talking on too early. I'm gonna just take Lockett ahead of time because I think that he's at least serviceable, a veteran. I don't need a big season out of him. I just need him to chip in with a game or two. Um, Wandell Robinson's kind of a really possession guy. He's almost like a running back playing wide receiver as far as lengths per catch. Wilson scored it, a few years ago. He had like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Should get better. I think that he could sneak in there a little bit. Hopkins, in Baltimore, is there enough balls? Will Keenan Allen sign? I mean, that's kind of you know, he's talking with teams, but I mean, if he signs with a team, he's a veteran guy. You would think that he's not going to sit out, but I think based on where I'm at, I mean, I think that I'm going to have to take a shot on him. I mean, just kind of whiffed, and then we'll see what happens. Because like any of these other players, like what is their ceiling? 50 catches, 40 catches. Pierce last year had, gained maybe 700 yards, made some big plays. McMillan came for Tampa Bay, came on the end of the year. What's his name just went? Sorry. It's going. Thalen just went. So yeah, really interesting to see how this flows. I got beat by Aaron Rodgers last year. Not really sure, what's going on there. I do actually think the Roman Wilson guy for Pittsburgh, if he had Rodgers, might surprise. I'm not sure where he goes in this food chain. I thought I saw his name. Yeah, he's over here. He's an unknown. He was hurt last year. They really need a secondary receiver, but they do have 2 tight ends now. And that's going to kind of change some things. But there's yeah. So like I said, these when you're at the back end of the player bowl and you're trying to find it, but a lot of times in the regular season long stuff, you can kind of find the players at the waiver on the waiver wire to kind of help you. We're kind of at the mercy here. So I'm going to shift back to the tight end position just in case. I think Otten could jump in. Geno Smith did enough, but it is enough of a split. Yeah, I think it probably makes the most sense just to take Otten if he makes it. He played pretty good. He had 3 really good games mid-season when they had some injuries, and he's probably going to get less chances. But if Tampa threw more, but I just need that guy to, if he can have 2 or 3 games and kind of hit, that kind of be helpful. So I got 3 tight ends, and maybe I could get away with 2 if they didn't have the same bye week and stuff like that. But so now at wide receiver, we're going to probably shift back to no tight ends, no running backs, and I'll just shift back to running backs just to see. So Roscoe Johnson is a backup for Swift, not guaranteed. Braylon Allen, behind, a handcuff to Breece Hall. And the rest of these running backs, like the Hunter guy, looks pretty intriguing for the Rams. So I'm not sure he's going to emerge as number 2. Blake Corum was last year. They really didn't get a chance. But a lot of the Rams running backs run like kind of similar style. They don't throw enough passes to their running backs, and they're not really active in the passing game. So even if one of them got hurt, I don't think somebody's going to kind of pop up. They've been talking about this Ja'Cory Key Merritt for Washington, but he needs an injury. But so you just want to scroll through and see what there is. I do think Neal for New Orleans might surprise, but I'm not a fan of there. But if you have Tucker, like something happened over in Tampa Bay, he could surprise if they Bucky Irving got hurt and White's there. That's kind of changes the dynamics a little bit. So based on what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to end up taking Allen, and I'm going to take Jalen Royals with him just to kind of see, and then let me just switch back to quarterback. So, this is, a running quarterback does have value, and I think Richardson, I don't love him, but he's capable to have some decent games, and so I'm going to gamble on him. I'm not really, we went a lot higher. I know he looked pretty. The reports were kind of positive. I thought Daniel Jones might do some. I know Richardson's a better player. He just seems like he can get a couple touchdowns, but where he goes, he's a 3rd quarterback. He can do some stuff. But he should be the starter. But like, he just his completion rate is so low, and he does in the last couple of years he's got hurt. 2 years in a row. But I don't need him to be a stud. Hopefully he can just chip in for some games, and we'll see what happens there. So we're at the wide receiver, probably getting to where the Keenan Allen and stuff like that are popping up on the list. Slayton's probably a decent player as far as like he could have a game or two, nothing special. But so as far as this, what is this? We're at 180. So I think it was 216 players get drafted in this. So, you know, when you're seeing some of these players like the Royals guy 207, will he get actually drafted? You know, what players at this back end of the player pool that can slide and move up, and who's really undervalued late. Like Tolbert was pretty good for Dallas last year. He could have a game, especially if it's stacked. I think that you could add him as a third player there. Mari Cooper's unsigned. Let's see, nothing there. Feldman, Watson, Christian Watson. I don't expect him to do much. He's going to be out for a long time. Last year, Philadelphia, threw the Dotson about one time a game. Didn't do anything. Cooks is, in that situation where over in the Saints where they're going to be pretty bad. There's not much there. Deutsch is a possession guy, not much. Traylon Burks hurt. So like I said, it's just which one of these players, like Hyatt, like I said, I mentioned him earlier for, he is a guy a couple years ago I thought he could pop, but you put him on your roster, it only makes sense, I guess, if you have so they took Allen. I waited too long on him, and I potentially could have got a quarterback, but I'll just let it run and I'll take Royals, and I might gamble on the Wilson guy and be kind of against the grain there, but maybe the Pierce wide receiver there for yeah, no. So, but I'm just going to get a piece of Kansas City, and maybe that's a late piece, and maybe that doesn't develop. But I think that he was an intriguing player for me. Gets kind of messy over there. So it's just like I said. So these they go kind of quick. You throw in a dart, you're hoping to stay healthy, and you see what happens. So I guess the other player I could have for Whittington for I guess maybe he already got drafted. And there is a way to see the like over here, you can see the whole draft board. Sorry about that. You can see like if you want to look back, but where it's 20 seconds, like how much time can you be jockeying, especially when I'm talking. So you can go back and look at this. And when I'll put this out there and do a copy of the draft board, I think, and just put it in this article and kind of push it out and see what happens. But it looks like I'm going to be out of here in about this. I talked for about 15 minutes, so this draft's going to take about 37 minutes. So just X out of that. I think do I want to take an unknown Roman Wilson? He's like the fourth receiver. He can score some touchdowns for Cincinnati. Atwell's kind of a smaller receiver. The Coker guy did pretty well last year. Ray McLeod had 50-something catches, not so much. Naylor did surprisingly well. Yeah, so I just end up getting the Pittsburgh guy autoed, and that's probably more of a gamble, but he is an unknown. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can help him. That's what I was looking for. Whittingham is maybe a guy I could have handcuffed him and maybe protected Puka. He was a guy that I thought would do something last year, but when you look at his scouting report a little bit deeper, when I was doing the research, he doesn't score. He didn't score a lot of touchdowns in college. He looked like he can make some plays, not very big. And so, sorry, I'm not even. So I'm gonna have to. I got auto. I thought somebody took my. I got Darren Waller by mistake. That's my mistake. I guess somebody took my Wilson guy and I didn't see it, and I was talking. That's my fault. So I got some fourth tight end and I donated extra position, but I guess we'll see what happens. So we'll see what happens. So I got timed out. I was that close to winning the championship, and I got timed out. But I appreciate your time. A little different, like I said, and we're flying through it. And this is my first one. It's more, like I said, it's more of a learning curve to see how the player pool goes, and we'll see what happens. So if I can get this mouse back over here, yep. So end recording. Good luck, and like I said, I'll try to bang out a few more of these and see what happens.